Okay, here's my sound preferences. I like a variety of different tunings, but really what gets my juices flowing, starting from the lower octaves, is in the bass. I like my bass punchy, tight, fast with a kick. I like a little bit of energy down there, maybe a little bit of warmth, but not too much into the getting into bass bleeding. It's got to have enough weight to make male vocals, make piano, cello, percussions, have the right tonality. When it comes to my mids, I do like my mids and mid clarity, but I don't like too forward a mid, so that's the upper mids I'm talking about. So keep the pinna gain down a little bit and not make it too forward a presentation. And when it comes to the highs, I do like my sparkly highs. At my age, I'm probably losing a little bit of the high frequencies. But not too much where it's sibilant and in your face. So that's what I like. Am Ende wird alles gut. Everything will be fine in the end. According to Vision Ears, a non-chi-fi I am. That was German. Or at least my version of German. Themed. You like it? Vision Ears EXT Mark II. Up there a little bit. 3,100 euros or $3,400 USD. You should also look to Music Tech to bring this one in to, well, in this case, to Canada, the Great White North. Here's a picture of it outside today. Lovely day up here in the Great White North. And this is a really fantastic special one. And let's talk about this. Well, I don't have the entire packaging because this was a personal purchase from a friend of mine. So thank you again to the Canucks Audioholics for sharing some wonderful gear between us. This is a beaut. I've had my eye on this for a while, and I am so glad I have the opportunity to hear it and share it with you. It is a unique configuration, 2 dynamic drivers and 4 of the latest second generation EST drivers from Sonyan. There's a 9.2 millimeter dynamic driver for the lows and the bass. There is a 6 millimeter dynamic driver for the mid-range, the entirety of the mid-range. They sport rubber surrounds and an aluminum magnesium diaphragm. Really cool. Another one of these with a metal dome cone in the dynamic drivers. Fairly low, 10 ohms, 108.5 decibels of sensitivity to power these things, and they're really easy to drive, actually. I want to talk about these shells. They do look like they have a semi-open design on the back, and that is actually just some venting as far as I understand. On this set I'm using JVC's latest Spiral Dot FX12 tips. Lovely, and I'll explain that in a bit. Here is the shell. Now they do say it's a semi-custom shell. So agree. Other than the Plunge Audio Unity, which also has the nozzle shaped back in to really conform and fit properly into your ear canal, where Chi-Fi doesn't do this. These shells are special and fitment is phenomenal. And the shells are kind of medium shaped, so they're not big, but just the way that nozzle and nozzle shape and angles back in it up into your ear, oh boy, so comfortable for me. Again, subjective fitment for everyone, but just the way they did it is spectacular. There's a really prominent lip on the end of the nozzle as well. And one of the things they did say in their marketing material is they actually have reduced that nozzle diameter quite a bit. One really unique thing that you can see, so most of the resin shell is black, except for this one little spot right up front. You can see that, where you can see the 4 EST drivers are very close, actually right into the nozzle. And that's how they're getting their treble extension out of this IM. On the top, they do go into that CNC machining of the top, and it's absolutely stunning in that purple. The cable is in 4.4 only, and it's a black 8-core SPC cable. And as we get into my likes and dislikes, it's the only thing that I didn't like about this $3,400 IM. I'll talk about that right now, and just so I get it out of the way. At $3,400, there should be something a whole lot snazzier than this. Sound-wise, fine, but snazzier. That's my thoughts. Anyway, sound. Again, before I get into likes, and I'm going to get into some sound impressions, I'm going to tell you just as an overview of how I heard this thing. So, first of all, I don't hear any compromises when it came to the tuning. And I'll pull up a graph here as I'm talking about this. It's all very balanced, more so than 90% of the gear that I have heard, and especially when it takes a lot of effort really to make a top end this well done without rolling off. And a lot of, again, 90% of the gear that I hear, there's a huge roll off in the top end, or it's just not done to this wow factor anyway. The EXT Mark II extends the frequency response with an amazing extension, really. I think that's what I would say, on the top end, without coming across as tiring or sibilant at all. And it did take my brain a little bit to wrap my head around this. And the more I listened, I loved it the first listen, and the more I listened to it, the more I fell in love with it. The bass goes deep, and it's punchy, and it keeps up to the mids and treble. That was important to me. That's balanced in a nutshell. The mids are rendered by that 6mm dynamic, and it's done so naturally with an effortless organic tonality that is very refreshing. Change, especially for the myriad of other hybrids out there with balanced armatures doing the BA and that BA timbre, you might say. The top end, though, is so well done. Some of the very best treble I have ever heard. It is a fantastic IM. It is well tuned, and they chose their drivers, I think, extremely carefully and tuned it such. Let's get into the likes. And why, really? Bass and the bass texture. I'm a big fan of bass, but I love hearing the texture, the attack and the decay, where it can really bring out the nuances in the bass. The drivers that's used in here, I think, is a very, very good quality driver. Very balanced in the mix, and that's why I liked it so very much. It had bass, but it didn't overpower anything. It wasn't trying to be forceful on the bottom end. It came into the play, came into the song as it was requested in the track, right? The smooth mids, some of the extra nuanced tonality and the musicality, I think, that you can only get with a dynamic driver doing it this well. And while I still gushed over Sonyan balanced armatures for the mids, I still think dynamic drivers right now, for me, still is some of the best implementation, and I love hearing it. And this is what makes some of the Visioneer's EXT Mark II a bit different and sets it apart from its competition, right? That second 4 quad set of second generation EST drivers are so precise, yet still maintain such a kind of a natural timbre to instrumental, especially strings, and giving that magic mojo to the trailing edges of notes that you don't get with any other drivers. Now, AMT drivers, which you are very, very rare at this point, or X-Memes, get very close, but they also have their setbacks. So this is it right now. Pinnacle of, for me, hearing top end. There's no issues with the treble energy using 4 of these ESTAT drivers. And that was a problem in the past where guys would buy these, manufacturers would buy these EST drivers, 4, 8, whatever, and still not get that much output. And I think that that's what's one of the big differences that's been fixed in the second generation. The output of the ESTs is considerably more. And they all need that energizer inside of this as well. So, but unlike X-Memes, where you need a power source to go to power those X-Memes, the EST drivers can just go off of the signal, right? Some of the best treble, I'll reiterate that again, that I've ever heard, right up there with the Tanzio Mirai RGB and the Alpha Omega Omega. Again, using EST drivers, the second generation, to just do top end, and it's absolutely fabulous. That shell, again, nozzle angle in design, well thought out, sets it apart, different from its competition, right? I touched, and that was really what was my big likes and the big takeaway Again, I talked about that cable. Nice as it is, it doesn't match the price tag that you're paying for this IM. That case, though, certainly is baller. I wish they'd put thinner threads on it so it wouldn't take 20 minutes to close, but not so bad. And then they also give you a little sack to protect your baby. So, again, well done, well thought out. I love the size of this bad boy. And again, well themed. So, marks for that. Let's talk about some music and how I heard the EXT Mark II. Let's start off with some female vocals. Japanese version of Kiss Me by Sixpence None the Richer. Upon first listen, what really comes across for me is how the EXT is natural. The vocals come across. Very well done, smooth and effortless, really, that's what I would say. And this is different from the BA timbre. I think there's a richness to the notes with a slower decay that you'd get from a dynamic driver over the speedier sound of a balanced armature. So that 6mm dynamic driver for the mids. Last Day of Our Acquaintance by Sinead O'Connor. Again, some more female vocals, but on this one, I listened to the dynamics, the microdynamics. So what struck me in the song was how well the EXT could scale up with macro dynamics. And by what I mean by that, if you're not to be confused with resolution, here I'm talking about the ability to play passages, music, softly and then ramp up to build excitement and give you that energy that the artist or the producer was intended. And the EXT Mark II does this fabulous. So it plays very balanced with a very dark background with soft vocals at the beginning and then ramps up the energy at 3 minutes and 21 second mark for a dynamic playback done with a great deal of finesse, I think, while keeping control over the bass and the treble and putting a focus in on the mids and sweet vocals that I believe in this track the artist intended. Unfinished Sympathy by Massive Attack. The bass in this track, especially at the beginning, showcases the IM's ability to go down low and very cleanly with nice decay. It's a nice sounding dynamic driver. Now with some baritone male vocals by The National. Demons. Done deep. Great weight and very little smearing into the mid-range. So you can add some weight and some body to the vocals without getting into some bass smearing. There's no complaints for me on the EXT how it reproduced the texture of male vocals. Again, that was really standout. And again, some IMs don't hit that mark. Money for Nothing, The Dire Straits. Here I'm listening for instrumental, I'm listening for stage, I'm listening for bass texture. And touching on stage, the EXT Mark II comes across as more intimate with good width and height, average depth, good instrument separation. But the bass texture was the real standout and takeaway on this track, where the mid bass comes through with good energy, good punch and attack, very well done, still very balanced in the mix. Moving on to more stage, and I use this track on every IM I listen to, Rackham, the live version by Dead Can Dance. Now, I use this track to get a sense of the gear, on how well it can convey a sense of stage and space, right? How big a space. And my impressions go along with, on the EXT, that it can layer decently, but the stage is more in your headspace and intimate over, say, an expansive 3D stage like the Lectura Cadenza 12 did, or the Alpha Omega, where it could create a sense of you just enveloped in this massive coliseum. where the EXT didn't quite do that. Still centered you, focused on center stage, but it didn't give you that massive enveloping stage that I've heard in other IAMs. What about some EDM? Friction by the Crystal Method. This is interesting. EDM approved for short bursts. Great deep punchy bass. Treble energy is certainly up there. While it sounded excellent on this track, I prefer a touch less sizzle on the top end so I can turn it up more. So, sounded great on the bottom end, phenomenal through the middle, little too much energy up top for seriously loud listening sessions for EDM, in my opinion. Ni Pokazaz Meloski by Hani Arani and Dobrawa Krocher. Now, if you're not sure who Hani Arani is, she is a pianist, and her claim to fame, what I love about listening to her music, is the way she records her pianos. So, typical piano has the mic on the keys. Well, what she does is she uses multiple microphones and puts one inside, puts one exterior, and on the keys. So you're getting a combination of all three microphones in the mix. And her music, you can hear the strings resonate as well as the actual physical keys as well. It's a really well done music representation of the way she does her music. And in this track, it doesn't disappoint at all. Piano from her with the microphones is simply standout. Very good nuances and great depth and weight to the piano. The cello and the strings are also so well done on the EXT. Like, brilliantly done. Excellent. Switching over to a different genre. How about some jazz? Life Goes On, the Ezra Collective, right? Love this track. Clean, fun, amazing vocals, instrument very balanced in the mix, a very cohesive mesh between the dynamic driver and the ESTs for a very smooth, wonderful replay. I like a little bit more attack in the bass. That's some of my preferences, but the EXT Mark II did it quite well. It has a slower decay versus that really fast, punchy bass that I love more than anything else. Now, I might as well talk about this now too. Here's a pick of the sources that I've used. And I use the Ibasso DC Elite. I have used the new Nunchaku and the Ibasso DX 340. And I also tried it with the Onyx XM5. Well, this is what I found. I found that I loved the EXT on tubes. Actually, and my favorite out of all of them probably was the least expensive, and that was on the Nunchaku. I really love the synergy between this IM and that IM or that dongle in tube mode with this IM. It was brilliant. Really liked it. What about some other tracks? Sao Paulo by The Weeknd. Chill Vibes, Big Paydays by Pink, BMF by SZA, Luther by Kendrick Lamar and SZA, TGIF by Glorilla, Glorilla. Would I have liked to hear a touch more bottom end on these bass heavy genres? Yes. But the 9.2 millimeter dynamic driver performed like a champ. Zero complaints on the bass. There was enough to make me happy with hip hop and rap. But again, if I was listening to these kind of genres specifically, might not be the IM of choice. In conclusion, Visioneers has made an an exceptional I am with the EXT Mark II. They nailed the balancing between in the tuning with an extended top end. Very well chosen drivers, and the tuning done with those drivers with an exceptional implementation of those latest Sonyan ESTs. There's something different with the dynamic drivers for the mids again, and it was an excellent choice. So overall, a very, very spectacular set, a very worthy listen. So very grateful to be able to get my ears on this set, enjoy it quite immensely, and be able to share it with you. So I hope that helps if you were ever thinking about picking this set up and its tonal characters, and just to see if it might be for you. But I think it's a pretty spectacular, special I am. Thank you so much for watching.